Welcome to the third section of Module 6 of the SHE project. We focus on speaking out against online misogynistic and sexist hate speech, with practical tools educators can apply in public online spaces. This session prepares you to read the message, choose the right response, and support safer participation. In this section we outline 4 narrative strategies to respond to hate speech: counterspeech, empathic narrative, empathy-based counterspeech, and alternative narrative. We will clarify their goals, mechanisms, and audiences, and we will close with a brief check for understanding so you can consolidate what you've learned. We'll finish with an interactive activity to put your knowledge into practice. Narratives to counter misogynistic hate speech online. Let's begin. Countering is not replying to everything. The responder makes a choice: which move fits the thread, who needs it most, and what it should achieve: stop harm, support someone, clarify a right, or steady the conversation. Public threads hold multiple audiences at once. Because needs differ, one size does not fit all. Different contexts and aims require different narrative choices. Studies of public platforms show 2 stable patterns. When organized citizen counterspeech appears around a thread, it can push the discourse away from hate and reduce polarization. The gain is not only a single reply but the atmosphere set for bystanders. Large annotated datasets also show that positive tone, effective responses outperform hostile argumentation over time, even if they trigger fewer back and forths. In practice, effective responses keep a steady tone and work with others, not alone. Taken together, the evidence points to purposeful choice. What helps most will shift with timing, tone, and which audiences are present. Sometimes accuracy and clarity lead, sometimes recognition matters more. Keep that decision logic in mind as you explore each strategy. We work with 4 responses, each serving a distinct purpose. Counterspeech engages the message directly, corrects claims, exposes fallacies, reinstates context, sometimes with carefully chosen evidence. Empathic narrative humanizes the person targeted and breaks silence, making normalization harder. Empathy-based counterspeech blends clarity with a relational tone to challenge firmly while de-escalating. Alternative narrative does not reply to the hater, it reframes the conversation with a positive, shareable story. Keep purposes separate so you can match move to audience and risk. Counterspeech is the direct response. It names the problem, corrects the claim, and exposes weak reasoning. The focus stays on the message, not the person. Registers may vary: calm logic, measured irony, firm indignation, but always proportionate. Right for bystanders as well as for the hater, because many decide what to think while reading. These aren't comebacks, they remove permission and assert rights. The first hostile line blames visibility: if she posts photos like that, she shouldn't complain. The reply removes the supposed consent and asserts a right: posting a photo is not a request for hate speech. Respect is not optional. Here the subject is what's unacceptable, not the person, so the audience cannot slide into a debate about motives. The second line hides behind opinion: this is why women shouldn't be online. The reply names the act and widens the frame: misogynistic and sexist hate speech isn't an opinion, it's abuse. Public spaces are for everyone. The responder rejects the "just my view" shield and recent res equal participation. Across both, the responder keeps a steady voice, avoids sarcasm, and speaks to bystanders. The spine stays the same: name the act, assert the right, and cue the audience. Counterspeech works when the responder explains which rights are at stake rather than joining a fight. Keep a calm, firm register, anchor claims in facts or clear values, and keep bystanders in mind. In these conditions, the reply clarifies the boundary and helps others align with it. It falters when the responder tries to humiliate, chases a win, or escalates the tone. It also falters in high-risk contexts, PILO-NS, coordinated harassment, or explicit threats. In those situations, the safer action is to document and report via policy routes rather than continue the exchange. Guiding question: will this reply steady the space, or heat it further? Choose proportionate action accordingly. Within counterspeech, evidence backs up a clear line. The narrative states the right, the source confirms it. Keep the claim short. Place the source right after the sentence it supports. Then repeat the right, so readers know what's expected. Here's the flow. Selfie scenario. Lead with visibility is not consent to hate speech. Everyone has the right to feel safe online. Then anchor with one recognizable statistic from a credible institution. One figure is enough, more would dilute focus. STEM exclusion. State: STEM performs better when talent isn't excluded. Add one participation outcome number. Close with exclusion wastes solutions we all need. The subject is public benefit, not a duel over stereotypes. Just opinions claim, right, freedom of expression isn't a license for hate speech. Cite a one-line institutional distinction, and recenter equal dignity as the norm. Rhythm: one claim, one source, one line on the right. The second narrative is the empathic narrative. Empathic narrative is not consolation. It humanizes the person targeted, makes the impact visible, and creates emotional and cultural closeness, without entering a duel with the hater. The aim is to help bystanders recognize the harm and realign with rights, equal dignity and non-discrimination, the right to participate safely online, and the right not to be targeted with hate speech. Empathic narrative changes the frame without confrontation. Instead of chasing the hater, it centers the impact and gives clear language for dignity. That shift makes the hostile perspective harder to sustain and gives bystanders a clearer path to side with the person targeted. Primary audience: bystanders who watch and may normalize what they see. The voice can come from people with similar experience, from those who have witnessed and recognized it, provided the focus stays on the person targeted and on rights, not on the hater. All girls are useless in class, they should keep quiet. An empathic narrative speaks to the person targeted, with bystanders listening in. When I was told my opinion didn't matter because I'm a girl, I felt invisible. Your voice counts, you're not alone. The structure is recognition, value, invitation. It raises the cost of indifference for bystanders and opens space for participation. Empathy grows when the narrative first recognizes harm without exaggeration, second humanizes the person as someone with voice and ordinary life, and third creates closeness, a bridge that lets bystanders place themselves in the scene. If you haven't lived it, use inclusive language. No one deserves to be treated like this. Offer imaginative entry. Imagine being told every day you don't belong. Draw honest, limited parallels, and amplify voices often unheard. Keep the center on those affected. Empathy-based counterspeech. What is it? This strategy lets a response challenge directly while avoiding escalation. It blends the clarity of counterspeech with the relational tone of empathy. A reliable flow is: recognize the person targeted, state the right at stake, add one concise principle or data point, and invite better behavior. Keep it firm and civil. Empathy-based counterspeech contests the message while lowering the temperature. It does 5 things, in a simple sequence. First, it reduces escalation. The response is firm but civil. It shows you can draw a line without fueling a fight with the hater. The immediate gain is clarity. The thread slows down and becomes readable for bystanders. Second, it protects the person targeted. It does not repeat the slur, quote the attack, or tag the hater. It shifts attention to rights and impact, avoiding re-victimization. Third, it changes tone and models respectful disagreement. The narrative opens with recognition, I see what is happening here, then states the right at stake, and ends with a concrete invitation, we can do better than this. It shows how to disagree without hitting the person. Fourth, it engages bystanders. A balanced register is easier to follow. It signals where to stand and offers reusable language. No one deserves abuse for sharing a photo. Safe participation is a right for everyone. Fifth, it builds civic resilience. It proves that hate can be countered without mimicking its tone. It provides examples others can adopt, aligns with reporting routes when needed, and lowers the chance of PILO-NS or copycat attacks. In practice, recognize the person targeted, state the right at stake, add one brief reason or data point, and invite better behavior. Firm, clear, respectful. That is how this strategy both contests hate and stabilizes the space. Let's revisit the same 3 cases from counterspeech, this time to hear how an empathy-based counterspeech reply changes the order and the tone. Recognition first, the right at stake second, one brief reason, then a calm invitation. This is not empathic narrative, it's a direct reply that de-escalates while drawing the same boundary. If the hater says, "You post selfies for attention, pathetic," the counterspeech line was, "Posting a photo is not an invitation to hate speech. Everyone has the right to feel safe online." Now the empathy-based counterspeech reply, "No one deserves to be harassed for sharing a photo. We all have the right to feel safe online. You might not realize how common and harmful this is." For "Women should stay out of STEM," counterspeech sounded like, "STEM performs better when talent isn't excluded. Excluding people undermines equal opportunity." The empathy-based counterspeech approach keeps the boundary but softens the entry. STEM works best when everyone's talent is welcome. Excluding women undermines equal opportunity and throws away solutions we all need. And for "It's just opinions, girls are too sensitive," counterspeech drew the line, freedom of expression isn't a license for hate speech. The empathy-based counterspeech reply makes the recognition explicit before the line, freedom of expression matters and so does freedom from targeted abuse. Calling hate speech an opinion doesn't remove its impact. We can disagree without attacking people. Across these examples, the boundary does not change, the sequence and tone do. By leading with recognition and rights, empathy-based counterspeech lowers heat for bystanders, protects the person targeted, and still makes the same clear point, without feeding the hater. Here we spell out the difference between counterspeech and empathy-based counterspeech so you can choose the right move. With tone, counterspeech is logical and firm, at times ironic or indignant. Empathy-based counterspeech stays calm, respectful, and human-centered. With focus, counterspeech tackles the hostile argument head-on. Empathy-based counterspeech first recognizes feelings in the space and rejects the hate without mirroring it. For audience, counterspeech often speaks to the wider public and sometimes the hater. Empathy-based counterspeech speaks to the hater and the bystanders together, modeling a steadier register. On goal, counterspeech exposes absurdity and counters falsehoods. Empathy-based counterspeech aims to lower defensiveness, invite reflection, and build enough connection for the line to land. And on method, counterspeech leans on facts, data, and direct challenge. Empathy-based counterspeech pairs empathy with clarity, showing harm and shared humanity, while still naming the rights at stake, dignity, non-discrimination, and safe participation. Both defend the same boundary, the entry and tone differ. Pick the one that fits your context, audience, and risk. As it differs from counterspeech, it also differs from empathic narrative. Empathic narrative speaks to the person targeted, it acknowledges what they're going through and affirms rights and dignity. Empathy-based counterspeech is a direct reply in the thread, it addresses the hater and bystanders, opens with recognition, states the right at stake, and firmly rejects the hate while inviting better behavior. Same boundary, different addressee and tone. Here's how they differ in plain terms. Empathic narrative is supportive and compassionate. It speaks mainly to the person targeted, validates feelings and restores dignity through a short human story. The aim is comfort, solidarity, and healing. Empathy-based counterspeech stays calm and respectful, but it's a direct reply in the thread. It recognizes feelings and then rejects the hate, speaking to bystanders, and sometimes the hater, as well. The aim is to lower defensiveness, invite reflection, and set a clear limit without escalation. Think of the method 2. Empathic narrative uses storytelling and acknowledgement of suffering. Empathy-based counterspeech pairs empathy with clarity, show the harm, appeal to shared humanity, and spell out why the message is harmful, in Wright's terms. Fourth response, alternative narrative. Here we don't reply to the hater, we shift the frame. Instead of arguing, we offer a different image and a new language, short, positive, easy to share. The idea is simple. When we show a better story, the assumptions behind hate lose force. See how the ground shifts. First, we don't empower the hater, no tagging, no quoting the insult. Second, we don't name the attack, we show something else that's worth sharing. Third, this isn't a rebuttal, it's a proposal. Because it replaces the script, this move can be more effective than a duel. Bystanders get a clean line to amplify and the conversation moves on. Example. Girls should stay quiet in class, they can't speak anyway. The alternative narrative doesn't join the fight, it says, I want younger girls to know their voices matter. Speaking up changes things, hate won't define who we are. See the shift? From silencing to empowerment. We don't argue with the hate, we supersede it with values and recognition that others can echo. A quick note on what it isn't. It isn't propaganda, it doesn't push an ideology, it creates spaces of recognition. It isn't moralizing, no lectures, no telling people off. It isn't vague positivity, not cheer up, but specific stories that dismantle stereotypes. And it isn't counterspeech, it doesn't refute the hate directly, it reframes the conversation from the ground up. Why it works? It reframes the issue instead of reacting to hate. It shows what's possible, not only what's wrong. It invites others to join and share, so the message grows beyond a single reply. And it performs best in proactive communications such as campaigns, storytelling, community building, where many voices can normalize equal dignity, non-discrimination, and safe participation. Here's the toolbox in one view. Counterspeech challenges the hate directly. It corrects false claims and exposes fallacies using facts and clear contradiction, speaking to the hater and to bystanders. Empathic narrative humanizes the person targeted and breaks the silence. It shares short, human stories that highlight dignity and can bring silent bystanders and potential allies into view. Empathy-based counterspeech protects without escalating. It acknowledges feelings, shows respect, then reframes firmly, addressing both hater and bystanders. An alternative narrative shifts the frame entirely. It replaces the hate with a positive, empowering vision that the wider community can repeat and share. Not every instance of hate speech needs the same move. Effectiveness depends on context, where and how it happens, on audience, who you are addressing, the person targeted, bystanders, community, sometimes even the hater, on risk, likelihood of escalation or safety concerns, on your communication goal, support, educate, reframe, prevent, and on your resources and capacity, time, skills, allies, reporting routes. The essential question is, do you know what you are doing, and why? Choose a proportionate action that matches rights, audience, and risk. In the next session, we'll look more closely at these criteria and practice applying them. By now you can recognize the 4 narrative strategies for responding to online misogynistic hate, understand their goals, how they work, and who they speak to, and begin to analyze sample replies, discussing likely effects on the person targeted, on bystanders, and on haters. Now it's practice time. You'll play an interactive board game to apply the 4 responses you've learned. Roll the dice, move along the board, and on each square tackle a prompt. Identify the best strategy, draft a short reply, choose the audience, goal, or spot risks and escalation routes. You'll get instant feedback after each move so you can refine your counter moves. When you're ready, leave this page and open the next one in the MOOC to launch the activity, then click the button to start. What you see here are the core sources behind our approach, evidence, methods, and classroom ideas. Further references. These titles support practice and policy alignment. Feel free to pause here if you'd like to note any items.